Well, good morning, all you beautiful bulletproof home service business owners. We're going to talk about skills assessments today. And you would think that this would just have a whole lot to do with the tools and the different types of materials you're going to work with, but we're actually going to go over all of the different types of skills that you're going to need to start and run your own handyman business. And that's going to include decision-making skills, problem-solving skills, organizational skills, time management skills, maintenance skills, which is the ones you probably thought this was for, people skills, and your work ethic. We're going to dive into each of these, and I don't want to waste any of your time or mine, so let's just dive right in. Number one is going to be decision-making skills. So there's no boss when it comes to what you're doing. When you're a self-employed owner, operator, vendor for property managers, or even working for homeowners, there is no boss, because it's not your client's job to know your job and know how you should do your job. You have to be the guy who actually knows what needs to be done, or at least figures out what needs to be done, and then makes those decisions and gets them done. Your client hired you because they assume you're a problem solver who can just make it happen. And another point I want to make is that a bad decision is better than no decision. And that doesn't mean we want to just have bad decision after bad decision, but if nobody makes any decision, nothing gets done at all. A bad decision can be dealt with and can be remedied after it's been made, but no decision is just no decision permanently. So just keep in mind, it's okay to make the wrong decision. The important thing is that you're learning, that you're recovering from these bad decisions, and you're moving on to make better decisions in the future. But you, as a self-employed owner, operator, handyman, or other home service business owner, are going to need to make decisions all the time. Now, another really important skill you're absolutely going to have is problem-solving skills, and there's three main questions we want to ask here. It's, can you intuit your way through things? Can you naturally just start understanding how things work? And also, how good are you at research? Are you good at just diving in and finding the answers and learning about the new subjects that you need? And then finally, do you have the confidence to actually do that and then to actually execute whatever your research tells you about? You have to be able to intuit things on your own. You have to be able to do the research. And most importantly, you absolutely have to have the confidence in yourself and your ability to research and learn new things to be able to just go and do this. You got to knock it out. That's what your client hired you to do. Now, moving on to organizational skills, I'm going to tell you all these things on this list are what kill most businesses. You're going to have dozens of open work orders and or estimates. You're going to need to do invoicing. You're going to need to do payments. You're going to need to track who's been invoiced and who's paid. You're going to have these kits, your inventories, your tools. You got to track your taxes, your mileage, your receipts. You have to manage employees. You have to manage subs. And that's just the very beginning, guys. All of this business all day long, you're going to need to be keeping a constant running tally and or something in writing that you can always refer to know where the state of literally everything is. Too many of us jump into this thinking that our main job is to just have tools and knowledge about toilets and sinks and mini blinds and front doors and to just go fix things and the rest will follow. And that's unfortunately not the case. The work itself has always been and always will be very easy work. It's the running of the business that's hard, and the organizational skills, at least for me and for most of the people that I've seen fail, it's organizational skills that end up failing you. You have to be able to keep up with all of these, plus dozens more that I didn't put on this list. However, I am going to tell you about something super positive, because this skill is what can propel you from sub six figures to post six figures. You can definitely propel yourself into that $100,000 a year or more range with time management. And one of the key things for you to understand as an owner-operator, where you're running the business and you're doing the work, when you're the everything guy, your time spent on the job should be billable at least around $100 an hour, if not more. And I'm going to repeat this a billion times. I don't charge hourly. I don't give hourly rates. I don't consider my business to be hourly. But yes, your time on the job should not be worth less than $100 an hour billable to the client. With that being said, time management is where you start saving a minute here and a minute there. And as a good example, I'm well over $120 an hour now. I'm probably in that $150 an hour range. It's hard to say because some jobs are more and some jobs are less. But let's say I'm at $120 an hour. Well, that comes out to $2 a minute. So I can start making decisions going, okay, if I do this decision, it's going to take me 6 minutes, which is worth $12. And if I do this decision, it's going to take me 23 minutes, which is worth $46. Very big difference there. So you start tracking your minutes. You start looking at where all your time goes, and you start realizing that if your time is worth a minimum of $100 an hour, then if you're able to shave 1 hour a day, just 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and get yourself back 1 hour a day, that you can now apply towards doing another job, charging another trip fee, and or making another $100. $100 a day is $500 a week, which is $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year just by shaving an hour a day. When I dove into time management, I mostly got my time management from 3 things: inventory, scheduling, and job kits. Those 3 things ended up saving me something more like 2 or more hours per day. So now I'm at a point where I probably can account for 50 grand a year worth of my personal income is just coming straight from efficiencies. So please get good at your time management. Use the tools that you need, purchase the tools that you need. And when I say tools, I don't just mean tools like these ones on the wall behind me. I mean a CRM like Jobber. I mean QuickBooks. I mean all of the other pieces of software that you can use to make yourself faster and better. Even paying for the upgraded version of ChatGPT or any of the other AIs that you can have in your pocket to discuss things with all the time. Even that is going to save you some time and make you more efficient. So this one right here, guys, time management. This is one of the most important things you're going to hear me say on this video when it comes to your skills. And one last little caveat with time management. Part of time management too is just waking up earlier, getting started earlier, skipping your breaks, skipping your lunch, and working a little bit later. The hungriest are the ones who win. It's the first one in and the last one out. The first guy to show up to work, the last guy to leave work every day that takes the shortest lunch and the fewest breaks. He's going to get more done, and he's going to get that slight little edge over everybody else that's going to propel him all the way to the top. Now, maintenance skills is going to be a big one, so I'm going to try to move kind of fast through these, but most of your jobs are going to come down to 4 separate skills for on the job. You're going to need to know your tools, your materials, your fasteners, and your finishes. It all boils down to those 4 things. Your tools, obviously, I've got them on the wall behind me. You need a basic set of cordless tools like your drill and your saws and stuff. You're also going to need your basic hand tools. You're going to need chisels and screwdrivers and Allen wrenches. I have whole videos you can go watch for that. But you need to know the tools and you need to get familiar with all the tools, and they're going to transfer across most materials, fasteners, and finishes. And then second is going to be materials. You're going to need to start learning all of the different materials that you'll be using. Drywall is a type of material. There's lots of other types of materials similar to drywall. Sheet goods like siding and paneling and drywall and sheathing. All of those are sheet goods. So start learning the different types of materials. And by the way, these will come with you over time. You don't have to know these when you start your business. You just need a slight familiarity with them to start. And then you need, like we talked about a few slides back, the ability to research and the confidence to trust yourself that you're capable of doing the research and diving in and getting this done. Because what you're going to find is when you start learning a basic grouping of materials, when the day comes that you have to introduce new materials for new projects you've never done before, those new materials are going to fall into sort of materials categories. They're going to share a lot in common with other things in that category. So you're going to build upon your materials experience and knowledge as you continue to add new and more complex materials and knowledge. Next is fasteners, and fasteners means a lot more than you think fasteners means. Fasteners can be, number one, a glue is a fastener. It fastens 2 things together. Screws, nuts, bolts, those are fasteners. You've also got compression style fasteners, which would be, for example, lead sleeves that you put into a hole in some masonry and then drive a bolt through. Or you've got tapcons, which is a different way to fasten something to masonry. You've got wire nuts, those fasten 2 different wires together. So start thinking of things in terms of being a fastener. So what you have in this industry is what I'm trying to get around to. The tools are the things you use to manipulate your materials and or your fasteners. Your materials are the things that you're manipulating, and the fasteners are just basically what holds everything together in once you've got your materials and you've manipulated them and prepared them with the tools. Now, next on the list is going to be finishes, equally important. Whatever we work on, we do want it to look good when we're done. So we're going to look at finishes as being things like paint, some finishes that you can't see, such as a sealer over tile in a shower, and some finishes, aside from protection, are also designed to enhance the look of something, such as putting a stain on a wooden picket fence. So without diving into every single tool, every single material, every single fastener, and every single finish, I hope it's useful for you to understand that you can start classifying things in these categories and start understanding that, for example, for tools you have saws. Saws are just bunches of little chisels. A circular saw is a whole bunch of chisels, in a circle. A jigsaw is a whole bunch of chisels in a straight line moving up and down. A grinder is thousands or millions of teeny tiny little particle chisels that are going over a surface and cutting it. Same thing with sandpaper. Sandpaper is millions of itty bitty teeny tiny little grains that each act as a chisel to smooth out a surface on a piece of wood. And then guys, if we do want to get specific though over actual skills that you do need to teach yourself, preferably before you get started, is at least some basics of electrical and plumbing. And this doesn't mean you can't figure it out on the job, but there is a very big difference between swapping your first outlet, knowing something about household electrical and how it's run and how outlets are hooked up and how the system works. Very big difference between swapping an outlet if you go into it knowing something about that and if you go into it knowing nothing about that. So do brush up on the basics. And you know what, guys? You got YouTube University. I mean, that's why you're here on my channel, learning about how to start and run the business. There are other channels from electricians, from plumbers, from drywall experts, roofers, lawn care experts, every skill you can imagine in the entire world. I can promise you there's nothing that you're ever going to need to do as a handyman that someone has not already made 15 different YouTube videos for, describing to you in detail every little nuance of how to do that job correctly, along with all of the background information you need to know before you get started. It's all on YouTube. That's why you're here. I have all the confidence in the world that you're going to go out there and find what you need, but do brush up on electrical and plumbing before you get started. Now, the people skills aspect, this is a unique one for me. I'm not really a fan of people. And I don't mean I don't like people on a one-on basis just hanging out, but I just, when it comes to work, man, I just want to get my work done and I want to leave. So my business is set up, this entire channel is to teach you how to do business to business as a handyman, so that your handyman business is serving property management business or realtor businesses or insurance businesses or commercial businesses. Business to business is just business. They ask you to do a job, you show up, you do that job, you give them an invoice, you get paid, and you leave. That's business to business. It's boring, it's relatively bulletproof, and it allows you to just really focus on what's important. Now, I know a lot of y'all are going to be working with homeowners though, so something you have to know going into homeowners is you have to have really good people skills. And don't get me wrong, you do have to have good people skills with property managers and with business to business, but not quite to the extent for homeowners. A lot of homeowners really want to feel like they've bonded with their handyman, so you're going to have to figure out how to be friendly with them without becoming their actual friend, and you're going to have to figure out how to make them happy without giving them too much of your time, because what they'll do oftentimes is they'll want to spend half the time you're there talking, but then they're not going to like the bill at the end because you had to bill them for all the time you spent on the job, whether they were distracting you with conversation or not. They're also going to be doing things like trying to get you to do extra work that isn't on the list of things that they offered to pay you for while you're there, and you're going to have to figure out a way to say, yes, it's going to cost this much, rather than just yes, and rather than getting upset that they're trying to nickel and dime you, because the bottom line is they will try to nickel and dime you, and you're going to have to use your people skills to understand how you can just remain calm, speak to them calmly and clearly in a way that doesn't offend them, and offer to go ahead and do the work they're asking you to do, but for an increase in the price that you said you would do the original work for. Or, if it's right for you, don't charge them for it. If it's literally one light bulb and you can reach it and it's right there and they're in a wheelchair and they have the light bulb in their hand, I mean, put the light bulb in, you know, but if they ask you to go paint another door that you weren't going to be painting, you do have to understand how to have enough people skills to say, I'd be happy to do that for you, but it is going to cost you an additional $100. Which is why I have on the list here that you're going to have to figure out communications and psychology, or rather the psychology of communications. And a little tip I can give you here, by the way, for your electronic communications that's not in person, sort of on the fly, for those electronic communications, if you're not sure how to word something, really great advice is to go to ChatGPT and have ChatGPT help you word it. You can tell ChatGPT the context and the background. You can tell ChatGPT verbatim exactly what was said to you or what message was left for you, what email was sent to you. You can tell ChatGPT what your sort of internal answer is, as well as what you think your external answer to the client will be, and then ask ChatGPT to rewrite it in such a way that it sounds the way you want it to sound, like a professional, without instigating anything, without being offensive, or without putting anybody on the defense. Because you have to, at the very bottom of my list here, controlling your temper. You will get angry sometimes because people do disrespect not only handymen, but I think handymen more so than licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, or contractors in general. They're going to disrespect the handyman a little bit more because they assume that by having the title of handyman, you've just come into this as sort of a subservient role where they can just tell you what to do and you're their employee. So they're going to make you angry sometimes, and one of the biggest skills you're going to have to learn is just to control that temper. It's way better if it's electronic, like I said, because you can feed it into ChatGPT and just tell ChatGPT, hey, how do I tell this client that they can go screw themselves? And now finally, we're at the very end. We come down to work ethic. And guys, there's just one thing I have to say about work ethic. You're not fooling anyone. You're not fooling anyone, and you're not fooling anyone. When you hack a job, people eventually know. When you lie about what you did, how you did it, and why you did it that way, people eventually know. When you lie about the pricing on something, people eventually know. All of these little teeny tiny things, each one individually, as you go along, when you want to do things that are unethical, and they might feel like teeny tiny little unethical things that don't matter and that nobody will notice. But if that's who you are, if that's how you run your business, people will notice over time, and people most likely are noticing right away. They can see it in your face, they can see it in your eyes, they can hear it in your voice, they can hear it in the way you hold yourself. When I speak to people, they know that I mean what I'm saying because I've been there, I've done that, I've run this business for 4 years, I've paid my dues, I've done all of the suffering, I've learned the lessons, and I can look you in the eyes and just tell you what I've learned. And I may be wrong about some of it, and a lot of what I say may not apply to you, but you know I'm telling you the truth because you're watching me tell you, because I had the work ethic to do this correctly. And that doesn't mean I did it all correctly, but I had the work ethic overall, more than most, I think, to put in what I had to put in, to sacrifice what I had to sacrifice. I lost money when it was necessary for me to lose money to make sure that I did solid work at a fair price and that I was always the guy who followed through on my word. So when you don't answer the phone, even though you could at 1 o'clock in the morning, they know. When you hack a job, they know. All these little things you think you can get away with, you're not actually getting away with. What you're doing is dropping your reputation down. So if you take away nothing else from this video, even though all of this, I think, is extremely important, if you take away nothing else, it's that you're not fooling anyone. The only way to be the man in this arena is to actually wake up every day and commit to being the man in this arena and to doing this the right way, to sacrificing everything you have to sacrifice and being what it is that you want people to view you as being. And that's the final word on this. These are all of the skills that I think you're really going to need to have in terms of assessing yourself should you start a handyman business or any home services business. You need to have the majority of these skills down, or at least a strong grasp of where you're at and where you need to be headed, and a commitment to move towards developing those skills. If you do so, I think you're going to have a very successful handyman, electrician, mobile dog groomer, or any other home service-based business just by getting these skills down. These are your bedrock, these are your pillars. So with all that being said, I love you guys, I hope you're out there killing it, and I'll see you on the next one.